Hi, everybody. We're the Skeleton Crew, and today we are taking our first of 4 trips to a land down under that we'll take in this series.
4, yeah.
4, right? Chronosaurus count?
So far.
So far. Could maybe be more. Unlikely. There's not many dinosaurs from there. But we'll see if they add more.
Maybe.
We're going to talk about Muttaburrasaurus today. But first, a few things. Comment. Share. Like. Patreon. James Napoli.
Good introduction.
Postdoctoral researcher.
We have more things to introduce, hypothetically.
Yeah, okay, this one requires some explanation. So we're going to do some things for the Society of Vertebrate Paleontology meeting this year. So just keep an eye out for 2 things, or 3 things, actually. One of them is that we are going to be running a panel where we talk about the Skeleton Crew as a channel and our ethos and inspiration behind how we run the channel. I think it'll be really interesting for a lot of our viewers. That is going to be a panel done at the virtual Society of Vertebrate Paleontology meeting in October. So that is something that you need to be registered for the conference to view live, although a recording of it is supposed to be uploaded to the SVP YouTube channel afterwards, so if you miss it, you'll be able to see it then. Maybe more excitingly for some of our viewers is that we are going to be doing a series of fundraising live streams like we did back in June. This time we're not benefiting the Trevor Project, we are benefiting the Society of Vertebrate Paleontology Futures Award, which is an award for people from underrepresented groups in paleontology, specifically undergraduates who want to get research experiences. I'm sure that many of you already know, but if you don't, let me tell you that undergraduate research is a critical experience to get if you want to get into graduate school in paleontology and become a paleontologist. It's the single most important thing you can do is get your hands on fossils and get experience with real research. It is also something that presents a pretty significant financial barrier to a lot of people because undergrad research experiences often don't pay very much or don't pay anything at all. And so it's something that many people can't afford to do. The SVP Futures Fund is intended to alleviate this situation by providing an award directly to people from groups underrepresented in paleontology to allow them to do summer undergraduate research opportunities. This is something we think is really important. It's the most important thing that you can do to increase diversity in paleontology and increase representation and ensure that anybody who wants to be a paleontologist has the opportunity to become one. So we are going to be running... Yes, Alex?
I was just going to say, and it's going to be a lot of fun to attend. You would have to be nuts to miss it. All right, continue.
Did he do a visual thing? I was
he held a nut up.
Jesus Christ.
These are going to be really fun live stream events. The first one's going to be shorter. That's going to be at the beginning of October or sometime before the SVP meeting, which is between October 16th and 21st, I believe.
Something like that.
I believe that's correct.
It's within that range. It might not actually start. It starts on the 18th to the 21st. The second of these will be another marathon, potentially 12 hours, might be a little bit shorter if we take care of ourselves. Probably
maybe a little bit longer if we don't.
Right. The reason that we're doing 2 separate fundraisers and that this is going to stay open for so long is that we are trying to raise a full $10,000 to benefit the SVP Futures Award. Right. Last time we did a fundraiser, we were able to raise $7,000. We have a larger audience now. This is going to a really good cause. It might benefit some people in the audience one day to have more money endowing the Futures Award. So we're optimistic that our audience can come together and make something really, really incredible happen. If we are able to raise that amount of money, we will fully endow 2 future SVP Futures Awards. So we will enable 2 more undergraduates to get the research experiences they need. So we're hoping we get 10,000. We're hoping we get a little bit more. And we're really looking forward to seeing what the Skeleton Crew fan base can come up with. What the hell just happened? On screen.
What the hell just happened?
Don't worry about it.
It looks like that animal, who I haven't introduced yet, just came in and got pulled off like a barbershop quartet with the big hook. Just whoop! Like that.
He skedaddled.
like that sound effect needs to be added during editing, whoever edits this.
Straight in, boys.
So, anyway, SVP, we're doing a panel, we're doing charity live streams. Please come to our live streams. The first one is not fully set on a date yet, but the second one will be on October 29th. It's going to run for 12 hours, probably starting at 12 Eastern time and running till midnight Eastern time, which means that no matter what time zone you're in, there's going to be some time you can watch, and we want
And
you to.
maybe we'll be in spooky costumes because it's almost Halloween, but probably not.
We might be in
well,
costume.
We could be.
We might win at Call of Duty.
Oh, well, that's
We might be
assured.
able to play Call of Duty together.
We might
Skill
play
issue.
Call of Duty. I might
did
buy a
last
new
time.
computer just for that stream. Anyway, just in case you didn't hear me before, like, comment, subscribe, Patreon, Dr. James Napoli.
Cool. I'm not going to say any of that. My name is Amelia
Are you
Zula.
also not James Napoli?
No, I'm not. No, I'm sorry.
You don't have the
I don't know
riz.
what. I know the resemblance is uncanny. But
I am James Napoli. I am James Napoli.
Amelia and I are always said to be the members of the skeleton crew who look the most like each other, so yeah.
But weirdly enough, Amelia looks more like Timothy Chalamet.
Sure.
I would like to thank our patrons for saying that I look like Timothy Chalamet in a good way in all but one case.
Shout out to the one person who said yes, but in a bad way. You're my
Yes.
We love
favorite.
you.
You're my favorite, and I do know who you are because we can see that information. So thank you. Anyway,
Anyway,
continue, Amelia.
my derailed. Okay. Anyways, my name is Amelia Zitlo. I'm a PhD candidate at the American Museum of Natural History.
Cool. I'm Alex Rubenstahl. I'm not from a land down under, unlike the animal we're going to be talking about in this video, but I am a PhD candidate at Yale University. And also, just, I'm not going to repeat everything James said, but a note for our commenters. We love you. I like to see all the fun timestamps. However, if you're, going into the comments and you're entering comments and you see that someone has pointed out something that you also have thought to point out, you don't need to do it 8 times. If you see that someone has made the point you're going to make,
No, don't listen to him. Comments are good for the algorithm.
no, I was gonna
Keep
say,
saying
don't.
it.
my personal dislike of having to read the same comment over and over again is more important than the algorithm. You've heard it from me, folks. Anyway, that's the end of my spiel.
You're also out of order.
I don't care.
This whole introduction's out of order.
You're out of order. Well, more importantly, I'm Scott Johnston, and I'm the vertebrate paleontology, fossil preparator, and technician at Harvard University's Museum of Comparative Zoology. And the most important is I remember what happened on the 21st night of September, which is when we're recording this.
Sure is.
Do you remember? All right, and
Wait, no. Dalton. He's not here.
I thought you brought him.
Oh, God. I thought you
Oh
were
god, we
supposed to
left
bring
him at the
Dalton.
bus station.
He's on top of the car.
What's the Seinfeld bit? I was supposed to pick up Dalton at the zoo 6 hours ago.
The London Zoo?
Right.
Yeah. Dalton has been abducted by the British. He's currently trying to escape the British Museum with a horde of artifacts to bring them back to their native lands.
He's joined a
Repatriation
gang of
King,
Cockney
Dalton Meyer.
youth.
yeah, he's going to be doing rhyming slang and snapping his fingers a lot.
Cutting people with razor blades.
West Side Story, set famously in London.
I said Cockney. Jimbo did
I
the
said
snapping.
rhyming. Well, I said rhyming slang and snapping.
But you did the
I'm
finger
sorry,
snap.
I'm mixing metaphors. Whatever. We're the skeleton crew.
We're the
together with
skeleton crew.
The
Right,
skeleton
we're
crew.
This introduction has taken 11 minutes and 13 seconds to record.
It's a good
And
sign.
the video has not started yet. Enter Muttaburrasaurus.
Well, let's do that.
Enter stage center.
Enter pursued by a Muttaburrasaurus. See, I can reference theater things correctly.
It's actually
Cool.
exit pursued by a bear.
That's so cool.
James is feeling a little called out, so
Yeah, it's okay.
Some of us had friends in high school. Not everyone was a theater kid.
Wow, all of these look very
I
similar.
wasn't a theater kid.
Some of us went to public school and didn't have theater.
I went to public school. Relax.
I think
Some
we
of
all
us
went to
went
public
to-
school.
Some of us
Yeah,
went to
same.
public school in not great.
Hey. Oh, not
They
great.
don't have funding for their public schools.
Wild. Crazy. Hey, that's Muttaburrasaurus, everybody.
Hey, look it. Muttaburrasaurus.
Whattaburrasaurus?
Muttaburrasaurus.
Muttaburrasaurus.
Visaburrasaurus.
Look at that nice tail. Ooh, that'll lead a... We can sort of talk about that when we talk about close relative.
Oh,
Yes.
they doing things.
Oh,
They're socializing. Okay.
I love this design. I'm gonna break the chaos of this intro. This design is great.
I like it too.
I love how naturalistic
She agrees
it seems.
with you.
Yeah, she does. Look at that nose.
Look at the size of that snout. Oh, look at its big,
God.
pretty doe eyes, too.
Muttaburrasaurus was really voted the dinosaur most likely to sit on a small white dog while it was high. I love Muttaburrasaurus and The Sopranos.
We love both of them here, folks.
Yeah. After we're done with Jurassic World, I think we should just become a Sopranos rewatch channel. Because
love it.
apparently there's a tremendous ecological niche for them. There's like 5 separate podcasts that are just I'm watching The Sopranos. They all make
Damn.
money. I don't understand. Whatever.
It's
Only one of them has people
paleontologists.
from The Sopranos on it.
Paleontologists watch The Sopranos. We don't talk about any paleontology things. We just happen to also be paleontologists watching The Sopranos.
Except in the one episode where Tony is reading a dinosaur book. We'll talk
Yeah,
about
and he's like,
paleontology.
I can't get enough.
But that's in like season 6, so you'll have to like hold on.
Yeah, you gotta be with us for the long haul for that one.
Anyway, what does Muttaburrasaurus mean, Scott?
It means the lizard from Muttaburra, which is the place where it was found. And the species name is in reference to, I wish I could actually have this minimized, but I'm playing the game. Give me a second. Sorry.
There it goes.
The species is in reference to the man who found it, who is Doug Langdon, and it's Langdoni. So, yeah, he was a sheep grazer, I want to say, who was the one who originally discovered the skeleton.
Wow. So, discovered by just your average, everyday citizen.
Just like you and me.
Just like any one of us. You don't have to be a paleontologist to find cool dinosaur bones.
In
And
fact,
all you have to do is look down. Or
there's
look
a
up if you're in Australia.
Oh, yes, we should probably... This animal is from a land down under, as we said earlier. It's from Australia. And it's,
cue the needle drop.
yeah. There's a bit happening here. There are a few other animals in the game from Australia, but this is the first one.
There are many others like it, but this one is the first.
This one is mine.
Yeah. Although, honestly, there are not a lot of dinosaurs from Australia.
There aren't.
It's
No.
Although, we're gonna be a lot of them. Pretty much all the best known ones, minus one, is in the game, and that one has a very close relative that's in the game.
You're talking about Leelanosaura?
No, I'm talking about Minmai.
Yeah.
Kunborosaurus is
Oh, right, Kunborosaurus. Yeah.
damn near complete.
But we won't talk about it right now, because it's not.
Yeah, we'll talk about that
video
one
about
later.
it. But yeah, anyway, so, like Scott said, and others, not many dinosaurs. Australia seems to preserve mostly a stretch that is in the later early Cretaceous into what dinosaur paleontologists call the middle Cretaceous, but it is most normally just also called the late early Cretaceous, but we're making a distinction. And there's a little bit, I think, of middle or late Jurassic dinosaur-bearing stratum in Australia, but it's largely Cretaceous.
Yeah.
And so and we'll talk a little bit about this, like what animals were living alongside this, but so we have marine reptiles and pterosaurs, there are a number of ornithischians, a number of sauropods, and some very interesting theropods that come from Aussie land. yes.
One of my favorites as a child, which I'm now realizing may have come out when I was naming my own theropod, was Kakaroo.
Kakaroo?
Yeah, which I remember I had a book or something. It might have even been a playing card or something with a dinosaur on it. But it was Kakaroo, and it was a really cool illustration of Kakaroo, which I assumed was a really well-known animal. Kakaroo is all of a tibia.
Cool.
Yeah, we don't really know what it is. It is a theropod, and it seems to be either an oviraptorosaur or an abylosaur.
Ooh, from Gondwana. I wonder which one it is.
Yeah, I know, right? Anyway, we're not
this
talking
is not
about
a video
Kakaroo.
about that.
No, it never will be.
Yeah, I don't know. Australovinator might be a good venue for an Australian.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say about
discussion.
Kakaroo.
Anyway, Muttaburrasaurus. What do we want to do? Do we want to do phylogeny next, or do we want to do
Let's
ecology?
talk about phylogeny, right?
Yeah.
This is a rhabdodontomorph.
Whoa!
I know.
A what?
It doesn't look like a rabbit.
rhabdodontomorph.
Run that back. No, yes. It's phylogeny time, ladies and gents. And this lovely creature has the honor of being our first non-hadrosaur ornithopod. Now, I know that sounds very exciting. Ornithopods are a group of ornithischian dinosaurs. They are not the hard-headed ones. They are not the armory one. They are at least early on bipedal, short arms, generally shorter faces, little beaks. Most ornithischians have this. These are things like your hadrosaurs, your iguanodon, and your things like Hypsilophodon. And the overall evolution of the group kind of reflects this shift from small bipeds to larger and larger obligate quadrupeds eventually. There's a lot of diversification and separate radiations of large size in this. But early on, there is a lot of uncertainty in these relationships. So there are things like Hypsilophodon, which are generally considered to be early diverging ornithopods, so little bipedal guys running around. But there are also these things called thessalosaurs. And this includes things like Hyagriva, Thessalosaurus, and Orodromines. And it is unclear whether these are very early ornithopods or actually outside of that and are neornithischians of uncertain relationship. But as the group evolves, you go from these cool bipeds, little guys zooming around, and we begin to get these radiations of larger-bodied ornithopods. So there are actually a few... Is your keyboard okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Cool.
What's up?
No, sorry. Jimbo was interrogating his keyboard.
I thought I saw a cockroach run over my desk under my keyboard, and so I had to ensure that I was just like having a stress-induced hallucination and not that I saw a
great.
bug.
You're just having... Did you take a lot of Benadryl?
Why are you over?
No, I don't see the Hat Man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seeing hat bugs.
So, interestingly enough, and this is a pattern that has emerged a few times within the dinosaur fossil record, and we've talked about this a few times, but some of the earliest known groups of ornithopods are actually from Gondwana. They're from the southern hemisphere, and their fossil record doesn't start until like 60 million years until after it's expected the group evolves. So there's one radiation, and these are the Elmasaur, what are they?
Oh, not...
Ellis... The Elsma something?
I'm looking. Give me...
Help me out, brother.
I know, it's one of those that's kind of hard to say.
Elmsasaur?
Elasmarians.
Elasmarians. Not particularly close, but I'd get
Elasmobranchs.
Elasmarians, and these include animals like
Sharks?
Gasparinosaur, but these are southern hemisphere dudes. But our fossil record for them kind of starts in the early Cretaceous and the middle Cretaceous, and one of these other really kind of and relatively quite successful radiations of early ornithopods are the rhabdodonts. This includes Muttaburrasaurus. They show up in the early Cretaceous in the fossil record, though they almost were certainly around in the Jurassic, probably by the middle Jurassic. And they persist right up until the end of the age of dinosaurs. And they have a mostly Gondwana distribution, but there are species from North America and Europe, too. So a pretty cosmopolitan group.
Is that actually correct that they're mostly Gondwanan?
Maybe they're not. Maybe I lied.
I think this is the only one that is.
Is that really?
Yeah, so rhabdodontomorphs...
Hold on, I gotta look this up.
To
Maybe
my
they're
knowledge,
mostly European?
They're mostly European is what you're thinking of. Well, there's two from... I'm sorry, there are two from Australia. There is... there's one, possibly two. There's Fostoria, which is not of certain affinity. It could be a rhabdodontomorph.
Interesting. All right.
And there's Muttaburrasaurus.
Ignore that then. Ignore that. I lied. These are from... The other ones are largely Gondwanan. These are from the European Union and also Australia. So maybe when the British went to colonize Australia, Muttaburrasaurus went with...
Now, in my postdoctoral advisor Lindsay Zano's recent paper on another rhabdodontomorph, an animal called Yanni, that has a little story associated with it that I suppose I'll tell in a moment. They did recover in one of their analyses.
Mm-hmm.
They used two separate matrices. One matrix had more animals being pulled into rhabdodontomorpha, like Fostoria does wind up as a rhabdodontomorph in that analysis.
Okay.
But in terms of like the smaller core of what the group is, it's weird because there are essentially two pulses, and then there's also Muttaburrasaurus. There's the early to mid Cretaceous in North America pulse, which is like Tenontosaurus and Yanni.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is the like Maastrichtian of Europe pulse, which is Zalmoxes.
Fossil record's so good.
And Rhabdodon. Although I don't remember if Rhabdodon itself is actually Maastrichtian, but late Cretaceous in Europe.
Okay.
And then outside of both of those is Muttaburrasaurus.
Neat. That's
It's
good.
odd.
That's reassuring.
Yeah.
But
There's two things I want to say here.
oh, certainly.
Well, I think one of them will dovetail into, but here's a fun fact about Yanni Smithii. Check the acknowledgments of the paper. I helped come up with the name.
It's your boy.
It's
What?
my boy, or it's one of my boys. I mean, I should say I don't want to take too much credit for it. Lindsay was like playing with different name ideas, and essentially because I was going to be joining the lab at that point, just asked me because she knew I had a background in Latin, and she just said, what would be the name you would choose to express this concept? So I sent over a couple of ideas, and one of them wound up being Yanni. So I had a little hand in naming it, got into the acknowledgments, which was very nice, but I didn't do any of the hard work. That was done by Lindsay and co-authors who did a wonderful job describing the specimen, which is the latest known North American rhabdodontomorph.
yes, of two.
Of three. There are two species
three?
of Tenontosaurus.
Oh, my apologies.
There's Tenontosaurus tillati and Tenontosaurus dacii,
Okay.
and Yanni. But rhabdodontomorphs were previously considered to be only an early Cretaceous phenomenon in North America. They were not... it was considered that I guess they'd either gone extinct or completely emigrated out of the continent. What Yanni shows that's interesting is that these animals were able to coexist for a long time with relatively derived hadrosaurids. Right?
Well,
It lives sympatrically with the Eolambia. The fossil record is very incomplete.
no
He said
way.
the thing. It's his
I know.
catchphrase.
I know. The fossil record is remarkably incomplete. So Yanni comes from the Mustn't Touch It member of the Cedar Mountain Formation, which is a difficult area to work. Mustn't touch it is actually a corruption of English. It literally means must not touch it. That's where
Wait,
the
really?
name comes from.
Wait,
Yes.
I was
That's
about to make
actually
a
what the
joke
name
about
is?
it being cursed, and I'm like, what? Are you not supposed to touch it?
Yeah, no, you were not supposed to touch it. It's a lot of like bentonitic mudstone. So when it rains, as I learned while I was out in the field in the Mustn't Touch It last summer with
pours?
Lindsay, when it rains, the entire ground just becomes mud. I almost
God.
slipped off a cliff to my death with Ale Chiarenza, who was in the field with me, because we were trying to enter our field site, which involved like a very steep descent and then this kind of like very a very crumbly, what's the term people use? Like
Popcorn weathering?
popcorny kind of
Yeah.
slope.
Popcorn
That's
clay.
all. Yeah, popcorn clay slope. That's all this bentonitic mudstone that you'd kind of land on and kind of have to like, just kind of let it absorb your weight and then like scramble up because you couldn't really get traction on it very well.
Damn.
It's the only way into the site. And all of it was mud, which had dried on the surface, so we didn't realize. So as soon as we stepped down, we are just sliding in the mud.
Jesus.
So Ollie and I like managed to eventually just like kind of gain some traction. And like I was on like hands and feet, just kind of trying to pull myself up, and we both got to a safe point. And this site has a couple of big sandstone boulders that have fallen off of the like cliff face on top.
You're like Frodo and Sam.
Yeah, basically. And so we just like sat on the boulders and we tried to radio to the rest of our people because we were going to open the quarry for them to go there. And we were just trying to radio them to tell them not to come. I think they figured it out on their own, but we were stuck there for hours. We couldn't move. Jesus. It wasn't safe to go back. So it was fun. We just like drank water, ate lunch, and just like chatted with each other. We're great friends now. I know Ale watches a lot of our videos, so hi, Ale.
Hi, Ale.
Ali, you had the chance to do the world a great service and push him off. And history will condemn you for this.
Why would I push him off?
No. I said, Ali,
he should have pushed you off.
You had a chance.
Yeah. Some people would have been very delighted with my passing. Yeah, I mean, it was a little rough. But anyway, the mustn't touch it for reasons like this and kind of the general topographical difficulty and the rarity of fossil material has like not really been very well studied. It's something like that's very key in Lindsay's work right now. So, and they've found a lot of material there. There's a lot that's been described. This is also where Moros intrepidus comes from, the little tyrannosaur.
Oh, okay.
Which isn't that little, really. It's diminutive size.
We'll get to it.
Okay.
It's
anyway,
Moros
is also in the game. I forgot about that for a moment.
Also, before we get too far away from Lindsay, her lab like streams their fieldwork, and if you follow her on Twitter, you can see cool stuff that they find. It's pretty neat.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff there. But anyway, so the mustn't touch it doesn't get well sampled, and it's now being studied and more intensively sampled, but historically it was very under note. What is more surprising is that in better studied or more fossiliferous areas that have historically gotten more attention, that we haven't found any of these rhabdodontomorphs except for Tenontosaurus.
Yeah.
It's a little weird.
If that has larger implications for the reliability of reconstructions of paleoecology.
It could. Who knows?
And I mean, we found a ton of Tenontosaurus.
Yeah, we have. There's a bunch of them.
Aren't there like 4 of them cut up in slabs in the big bone room?
Tenontosaurus?
There's big slabs of something, and the sign, the label say Tenontosaurus, but I imagine, given that there's no such thing as Tenontosaurus, like they look like roadkill, and they're like laid out on the slabs, and the slabs are cut into like 2 or 3 chunks because they're big.
That might be. It might be. I've never even noticed them before. I'll have to take a look next time at the AMH.
For our viewers, it's worth pointing out that for a time, Tenontosaurus, which is a rather, as far as ornithopods go, pretty famous. Its reputation as the animal Deinonychus seems to like to eat, but a big ornithopod with a very big tail. And for some time, it was thought to be slightly more closely related to hadrosaurs and more derived iguanodontians. But more recent phylogenetic work has found that it is, in fact, part of this earlier radiation of rhabdodonts.
Right.
Which is kind of neat in that rhabdodonts seem to represent this first pulse within ornithopods of kind of the evolution of pretty substantial size for ornithopods.
Yeah.
Because as you kind of go up the tree, these things are not as derived as things like Dryosaurus, which are much more similar in kind of the classic body shape to what we would consider a Hypsilophodon in the old-timey term, a kind of generally smaller biped. And I think this is even more early branching than something like Camptosaurus, which is often thought of as kind of an early representative of or approaching quadrupedal ornithopods, which is pretty neat, if you ask me.
It is pretty neat.
But no one asked me.
Oh, that's sad. Yeah, because Camptosaurus is an ankylopalexian, which rhabdodontomorphs do not seem to be.
think that's also the first time I've ever heard that word said out loud.
And let's also say Styracosternon, right? That's the other one.
Yeah.
That's in ankylopylexia, right?
Yeah.
Cool. We know words. And both of those, well, Camptosaurus and Tenontosaurus are underneath me. In that they are in the collections, and I see them a lot because they're very pretty and they're oversized, so they don't go in the normal drawers usually.
One thing that I think is also maybe worth noting is that this pattern with apparently a lot of missing diversity in these mid-sized ornithopods is not unknown. So, like, think about Thescelosaurus.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Thescelosaurus is from the same rock layers that T-Rex is from.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Where we find, as we've put it before, like an embarrassment of Triceratops. Just far too many. We've actually found every Triceratops that ever lived. We have complete sampling. They all fossilized.
All of them.
We did it.
Right. We got
If you hear anybody saying that they found a new one, they're lying to you.
It's a different animal.
We found them all. But
satire, joke.
This satire. We found a tiny minority of all of the ones that ever existed, but we have a lot of them. We have a lot of T-Rex, a lot of Edmontosaurus. There's like 4 Thescelosaurus.
Yeah, it's not. And I mean, more pressing than there just being 4, in my opinion, is that they're all from the late Cretaceous.
Well, right. Well, I mean, there's things like it. There's like Parksosaurus, and there are equivalents from earlier times in the late Cretaceous.
Yeah, but they're still all from the late Cretaceous.
Oh, I see what you mean.
And this is a group that should, if they're really early ornithopods or they're neornithischians, they should have a fossil record that's going basically back to the early Jurassic.
Yeah.
They don't. We're missing so much. 100 million years is missing.
That's fine.
It's a disaster. Anyway, while Scott lowers the volume, I was just going to say that even in spite of this relatively poor, we'll say, sample size for a lot of these clades, it is kind of neat that across the record of ornithopods, we do seem to be picking up large-scale evolutionary signals. So, like shifts to quadrupedality, shifts to like more complex feeding apparatus, and diversity throughout time. So this is we often on the Skeleton Crew will be like, hey, the fossil record's really bad. And this seems like we are suggesting to our audience to court nihilism. But nihilism is cringe. And there are patterns and we can know things. So, positivity.
Right. Especially when you're taking care to know what the biases that are hiding information likely are.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Just be aware. Always be aware.
Yeah. It is a difficult situation. Being a paleontologist is very exciting. And it's one thing that I like about the dinosaur fossil record, because we kind of operate in an area where there's enough of a sample size with some animals to know a bit more about their paleobiology, about their ontogenetic development. But with many of them, they kind of exist in a limbo space where a new fossil can change everything you know about what kind of animal it is, or whether a species is valid, or whether an entire clade lasts, past the origin and radiation of another clade.
I think there's a kind of, well, I don't want to make us sound like we're better. We're not, like, this is not a competition between subfields. But I think there's like an interesting opportunity within paleontology that I think is often recognized, that it is a field of science that is keenly and constantly aware of its own limitations and what we don't know. In a way, a lot of other fields are spoiled with information and data. We kind of have to investigate quite often, why don't we know this?
Right.
Why could we be missing this? Stuff like that. And I think that's pretty neat.
It is.
It's like exobiology, if exobiologists had any data at all. What if this animal existed?
What if?
Well, we do know Muttaburrasaurus existed. We actually know that probably 2 species of it existed. One of them is still unnamed, apparently. I don't know if it's maybe just been decided it's the same as the other one.
Are they from a different time?
They're from different formations, but I don't know how different in time they actually are.
Well, where is Muttaburrasaurus from? What formation?
It is from the Mukunda formation.
Are you sure you pronounced that correctly?
I am. It's a D.
Are you sure about that?
Yes.
It's Australian, isn't it?
Yes.
He makes a good point.
Let's move on. So the two species, I did just look it up. So Muttaburrasaurus langdoni is the only one named. That's from the Mukunda formation.
Okay.
The other unnamed one, which I don't know if it's since been determined it's the same thing. I don't know if it's in limbo or something. A lot of the times these new species wind up unnamed for decades. Is a little bit older. It's from the Uluru formation.
Oh.
Yes.
And limbo, for our viewers, is a lie that the Catholics made up to fleece people of money.
Limbo?
No, it's the
Or is that purgatory?
That's purgatory.
the first story of
Limbo's the first ring of hell. Never mind.
the first ring of hell in Dante.
I have really nothing much to say about this animal. Like, we know what it is.
Yeah.
There are. Sorry, go on. You were going to say things. I cut you off immediately.
The only interesting fun fact is that there's a mounted skeleton of it. It's a composite, I think, but it's a cast of Muttaburrasaurus' skeleton that winds up in museums a lot. It's in a bunch of museums in Australia. I've seen it in a lot of books, and
I think
what
I saw
I actually
it when I was
didn't
in
know.
Australia.
I'm sorry.
I think I saw it when I was in Australia.
I saw it
We
too.
all did.
Register Museum in Sydney.
I found
We
that
went
I'm
in
not.
different trips.
I found that I'm not recognizing it in photos because we were at that museum at night for the reception in SVP in 2019. So I'm like, oh, that's not the same skeleton. It is. It's just not nighttime.
Oh,
Yeah.
look
There's
at
a
him
lot of
go.
windows in there.
That's the museum that has the opalized plesiosaurs, right?
No, I don't believe so.
No.
Well, actually, on
Maybe. I don't remember seeing them.
that, there have actually been a couple of examples of opalized Muttaburrasaurus.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
So for those of you unaware, opal is a form of hydrated silica that can sometimes permeate into bones and fossilize and permineralize them in the way that fossils typically do. And the results of this are absolutely stunning. I don't think I've seen any opalized fossils in person, but I've seen pictures of them, and they are hauntingly beautiful. They have this kind of that characteristic creamy white iridescent look to them, and I think it's super cool that Australia is very well known for its opals, and knowing that this critter, which is also the state dinosaur of Queensland, is one of the ones that's opalized, is rad.
That's very cool. And to our, I don't know, we don't usually talk about rocks, but if you're interested in rocks and not dinosaurs, you're watching the wrong channel. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, so opal is if you go into a rock shop and you're looking at cool rocks, there's a good chance that 85% of them will all be some kind of silica dioxide, which is quartz, SiO2, but you throw a little extra H2O and you get opal. And just adding a tiny little bit of something to quartz will make a lot of minerals. Things like amethyst, is you add a little titanium. That is because silica dioxide is I think the most abundant mineral in the Earth's crust.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
By a lot.
Well,
oh my God, what was flashing?
Yes. Was something flashing?
I don't know. Oh, it might have been your screen. It looked like you had a flashing light in your apartment room.
Oh, I just got flashbanged. I'm being swatted right now.
Oh no.
It's that one guy who's our hater.
Yes.
What else can we say about Muttaburrasaurus? So,
well, no, we can say more things about silicon dioxide.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah,
go on.
baby.
It is also silicon dioxide.
Silicon dioxide.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's been a while since mineralogy.
Silica is silicon dioxide.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Richard Tolo would be so disappointed in me.
He would. Yeah, it's incredibly abundant, and tiny impurities and pure silica dioxide now I'm doing it. tiny impurities in pure silica will create dazzling colors, right? There are a lot of separate like trade names for versions of what are just quartz that have a little bit in them.
Yeah.
You mentioned amethyst is titanium. I forget what impurity creates smoky quartz, but that's always been one of my favorites.
I think it's an
liquid
extra
smoke.
like hydroxyl root, but I could be wrong.
It is produced by radiation.
Whoa, that's cool.
rad.
It is produced by radiation activating color centers around aluminum impurities.
All right, so aluminum. Okay. Aluminum also super abundant in the crust.
Right.
Aluminum.
Yeah, I mean, silicon and oxygen are... That is what makes rocks to a very, very broad oversimplification. You make them out of silicon and oxygen in some form with other friends.
Depending on what kind of rock.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, depending on the kind of rock. And so then the reason it's abundant in the surface is that like it's the less dense variety of mineral, right? Like silicate minerals.
And I think that's where a lot of Earth's atmosphere comes from. Like originally in deep time was the weathering of silicic rocks on Earth's crust.
Right.
I think.
It is an interesting trend. One fun thing is that a lot of like people always imagine the Earth's inner crust as probably being like, you know, a deep red or something. Not the inner crust, like the mantle. As you get far down, it's always drawn as red. It's mostly olivine and peridotite. That's green. Like the inside of the Earth is green.
I heard that
cool.
Referenced at least once as the middle of the Earth is mint chocolate chip.
Lamau.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I mean, is it heated? Well, I guess like.
I mean, it's
when
probably
exposed,
glowing red because it's hot.
Right.
Yeah.
I won't think about it.
But like the fragments of like mantle rock that we are able to get at the surface through pipes, like they're always this bright green.
And they're pretty
I have
cool.
never been as humbled by a rock as the first time I was in a geology lab in college and I got to hold a piece of peridotite. Like just knowing that this was a rock that cannot exist on the Earth's surface. It cannot form there. Right? This formed under conditions that I literally cannot possibly imagine. And it got ejected up, and now I'm just like, it's just a rock, but it's just this huge green, like it's so cool.
There's so much bit about geology that is like, for lack of a better term, humbling.
Yeah.
And like sublime, where it's like, geez, it like the enormity of time, and like it's one of the things that I really loved about taking sedimentology and stratigraphy and stuff. Is basically like I told people it was like learning a language, that you are learning to read Earth.
This is how you know none of us are geologists, because the reverence like geologists have for rocks is, all right, put it under the big thing that crushes it so I can look at it under a microscope. They're problem-focused people.
Am I the only one here who actually has a degree in geology?
No, I have one.
No? Okay.
I do not.
I knew you did.
I'm the only one who does it.
BS, brother, Bachelor of Science in Geological and Geology.
Yeah,
I think Jimbo's got one too.
I'm geology and biology, yeah.
Because that's what cool people do.
I'm just geo. Or Earth, I guess.
This is kind
Moving
of fun
on.
because in not having taken a single geology class in my life, I have now been TAing a very geology heavy dinosaur class at Columbia. It's been great. And like the students are like, what do we do? And I'm like, that's a good question. Let's find out together. I've never done this before. It's fine. We're having fun. It's great.
What's the course?
It's a dinosaur course with Paul Olson. So it's really only the first 2 weeks that are really geo heavy, and then moving on, like next week is cladistics in the lab at least. So like we're going to get into the bio soon, but not a single one of the TAs of the 5 have any geology experience. It's great. It's fun. We're making it work. It's okay.
Muttaburrasaurus is featured in one of my favorite episodes of one of my favorite paleontology documentaries, and that is Walking with Dinosaurs.
It sure
narrated
is.
by, what's that guy's name?
Kenneth Branagh.
Depends on the region.
Don't care. The good one, the BBC one.
I've actually, because I grew up on the American version, and it's been like almost erased from history. I have so much nostalgia for a version that I almost can't watch anymore, and it's weird. It makes me sad. I wish I could watch the American version.
I was caught. I only bring up the voice act, the man who did the narration, because I was listening to a Cold War podcast, and they play a lot of audio recordings, and they have a recording of him just reading news about the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, and it threw me so hard. I was like, no, that's the Walking with Dinosaurs, man. What's he doing talking about geopolitics?
I mean, among many other things, he was also Niels Bohr in Oppenheimer.
I'm sure that...
Yes, he was.
I'm sure that famed, like, legendary Shakespearean actor and director Kenneth Branagh...
He is Walking with Dinosaur Man.
Would love to know that he's known by us as, oh, it's that dinosaur man.
The Walking with Dinosaur Man.
Walking with Dinosaur Man.
He walked with Dinosaur.
He's some other stuff too, but
he walked
he
before
directed
Nigel.
Thor.
Yeah.
The bad first one.
Yep.
Yes.
All right, we don't have to remember.
He walked with dinosaurs, so Nigel Marven could run with dinosaurs.
Could run from dinosaurs.
Could run from dinosaurs, rather.
Be chased by one could say.
What? So anyway, yes. So from that episode,
it has a big yellow nose in that episode, and I love the way it would vibrate.
I really, really like that interpretation of it. That like you see in some other hadrosaurids, like Gryposaurus and stuff, where they kind of have like inflatable or very highly mobile nose sacs. Because like Muttaburrasaurus, we know that it had this like really enlarged schnoz here. And it's actually something that I really appreciate that the game kind of leans into a little bit. That it's hard to see it on demand on some of these guys, but they actually, one of their calling animations is actually a fun kind of like closed mouth honk, which I think is interesting and kind of weird that I don't think I've seen any of the Lambeosaurines do that.
Now I have a silly question. Do other rhabdodonts have big honking nares like these?
Not that I know of.
Okay. I have another thought, and...
Zalmaxes doesn't, Tenontosaurus doesn't.
Tenontosaurus has more of a nose than a lot of people think, though.
More of one, but it's not this.
Just a dumb question. And maybe this is something that's been talked about ad nauseum, but this is an ornithopod, and I don't usually travel in ornithopod circles. Has it been proposed that it has big, like, a huge nose to heat up cold air because it is living in like a subpolar region?
That I have heard that answer for, or that hypothesis for a lot of essentially enlarged nasal cavities or elaborate nasal structures on animals that it doesn't seem like there's another reason for. Like, I'm not saying it's incorrect, but it strikes me as like the old Stegosaurus, they're for thermoregulation hypothesis.
Sure.
Of just like not that it's fully a cop-out, but it's a little bit of an admission of, well, I guess they could have done this.
Okay.
But I haven't heard anything definitive of yes or no. Australia
at the time would have been cool in parts of the year.
Australia's cool right now.
Yes, it is a cool place, but that's not what I mean, Scott. We also see several animals that we don't know if it lived alongside, because Muttaburrasaurus is known. The Mukunda Formation is not known for much else besides Muttaburrasaurus and bits of some pterosaurs.
Namely because it's a marine deposit.
Yeah, they got washed out. Maybe the big nose was to float. It filled it with air like a balloon.
I think I've seen at least one reconstruction of some hadrosaur that it was a joke, but it was like inflating a big old nose sack and then flying off like a hot air balloon.
Tight. That's pretty cool.
You know, just for our viewers, I don't think it did that.
No, a satire, parody.
It's like how that one reconstruction of Dimetrodon where it's the two of them hugging each other and flying from trees.
Right.
Anyway, I bring this up because it seems that Australia, in the late early and middle Cretaceous, was kind of a neat place.
Yeah.
It was an island, right? By that point, it had been fully separated from all other land masses, and it had, Tenontosaurs at some point. There are all sorts of sauropods there that we probably won't get a huge chance to talk about.
That's a shame because they're really cool.
And they got cool names too, right? Like Diamantosaurus or something. And then, and there's a very particular, there's some very interesting theropods that we'll maybe talk about in another video. Things like Lianosaura, which are these early Neornithischians that seem to be hanging out down there, and also late surviving Temnosponds.
That is true. I just want to note one thing. Lianosaura has at least occasionally been recovered as an Ellesmerian.
Oh, that's interesting.
We were talking about before. Yeah.
So a very, very early diverging ornithopod.
Right.
That's neat. But it makes sense, because they are unlike, as I was told, rhabdodonts, a Gondwanan distribution.
Yes.
And not a European distribution.
Yes, by Gondwana, by the southern continents, Alex means the Mediterranean. Yeah, so yes, Lianosaura is a Ellesmerian, which is interesting. It is a very plesiomorphic morphology. Also has a really long tail, but we're not talking about Lianosaura.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and we won't, because it's not in the game.
Muttaburrasaurus also has a long tail. Like
That's true.
It's
not quite as high as Tenontosaurus, though.
Okay.
No,
I guess we could probably
under.
also...
It's low, right.
We could save a lot of the Tenontosaurus talk for Deinonychus anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think... Here's what I want to say, and I'd be okay with ranking this animal now, because it doesn't look like we're ever going to talk about it, but...
We've talked a little bit about it. We should talk a little bit about the anatomy, the shearing. I think the omnivore stuff Scott was talking about is a good little fact.
Oh, yeah, I forgot we didn't say that while we were recording, actually.
I kind of forgot to.
Yeah, Scott, go ahead.
Sure. So one of the things that I came across in my research for this critter that was rather puzzling was that for a little while, Muttaburrasaurus was actually proposed to be omnivorous. And not in the sense of, like, this thing was, like, chasing down and, like, stomping to death a Lianosaura and eating it, but probably in the sense of, like, an opportunistic scavenging sort of sense. Which... Also, let the record show, probably, like, as we talked about, weirdly enough, in our Alorotitan video, our last ornithopod, herbivore is kind of a spectrum. And
it's not a binary, it's a spectrum.
Oh, yeah. And animals that we think of as herbivores will eat meat all the time, constantly, whenever they get a chance to. They're just not built to kill in that way, or to hunt. But there's a lot of herbivores that are built to kill. But where I'm going with this is that...
Hippos have entered the chat.
Hippos, moose, rhinos, elephants...
Ceratopsians?
Moose are different, though. They're not built to kill just anything. They're built to kill white people in SUVs.
Oh my god. Jesus.
Actually,
Jimbo,
pretty much any kind of car.
Jimbo, they re-released moose into Yellowstone National Park to deal with the tourist overpopulation problem.
It's their natural predator.
Yeah.
That and bison.
Right. Oh, dear God. I've seen brain dead activity around bison. It really is like people see... There was a comment that I saw on Twitter the other day that really stuck with me, that was around, like, people getting really up close and personal to, like, some bison or moose or something like that. And it was like, people in national parks seem to act like flightless birds in an island with no predators. Immediately just walking straight up to the most dangerous animal imaginable and just like, are you my friend?
Well, and it's, like, insane to me because, like, back home, a lot of these people, like, live in the States, and we have various deer in the States, and you don't approach a deer. Like, you don't see people behave this way around their own local wildlife, and then yet when they go to the national park and encounter something 3 times as big and angrier. I
think they must think it's a zoo, right?
Yeah.
But even at a zoo, like, what you think? Like, tourist brain rot is something else. I don't know what it does to people. Like, ugh.
Do you think it's like because people maybe from different parts of the country see are familiar with cattle and they're like, oh, okay, it's basically a cow.
It's a moo cow, they might say.
It's
a hairy moo cow.
I'm disemboweled, they might say.
But that just tells me that they're not actually familiar with cattle, because like that is one of the animals when we go to Montana for field work. Carr is like, do not approach the cows; they will kill you.
I don't mean like these are people who are raising cattle. I mean like just people who like drive past them a lot. If we went back in time, people would be walking up to Muttaburrasaurus, and they'd be catching a lot of tail because there is, and this is not the fault of the individuals I mean, if you go up to a big, large herbivore, it's a little bit your fault. But there's kind of this lack of understanding about how to behave around wildlife and also large herbivores. I went on a road trip with the Yale EPS department, and we went for a hike through Glacier National Park. 12, 13-mile hike, a good long hike, grizzly bear territory. Didn't see any grizzly bears, but we did see a young bull moose just in the middle of nowhere. He was eating grass. And some of the group passed quietly as far as we could around, just walking forward at a straight pace until we were well out of range, but we could still, if we wanted to take a picture. And then about 2/3 of our group stopped in the middle of the trail, basically as close as you could be to the thing without getting off the trail, and started taking pictures of it. And I thought I was about to see a lot of our friends from across the pond will say, die, because all of the megafauna on their island is dead, and they have no idea how to interact with wildlife. That's all I'll say.
I think with national parks, I think it's a little bit of a twofold thing. I think a lot of people just don't understand that these animals are dangerous. I think especially like if you're not somebody who is used to dealing with like livestock, and you're not somebody who is educated about wildlife, you really have no frame of reference to understand it other than like it's the herbivore, so it's the nice one.
Right.
And
it's
I think
a Vegisaurus.
Also like an expectation a little bit that when you're in a national park, you're there for your own entertainment and your own edification, and therefore anything you want to do should be allowed. Like, there aren't any fences containing the bison. They couldn't possibly be dangerous to me.
There's not a tall fence keeping me from leaping into the Yellowstone. This water must be safe.
Exactly.
Anyway, Muttaburrasaurus, omnivore.
Muttaburrasaurus, omnivore? Question mark? Omnivore? No. This thing was absolutely an herbivore. That basically what it turned out to be is that Muttaburrasaurus is not advanced enough in its group to have the full like characteristic dental battery, like we talked about in a lower titan, and what like we'll talk about in every other episode with hadrosaurs in it, especially at Montosaurus.
Not much else to talk.
But Muttaburrasaurus actually had some very sharper, kind of more shearing teeth that are relatively convergent on the pattern that we see in ceratopsians. So basically, the people looked at this and was like, wow, these are some sharp teeth. Maybe this thing ate flesh. And then it was like, no, there are other things with sharp teeth that don't do that. Or at least, again, not habitually.
And actually, and I think we'll probably maybe talk more about this in the iguanodon or Tyrannosaurus video, but there's an interesting kind of shift in dental morphology that's happening within ornithopods on the way to things like hadrosaurs. Closer packing and increasing. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Anyway, that's Tyrannosaurus. That's Muttaburrasaurus.
No, it isn't.
Let's rank this guy, because I'm out of things to say.
Indeed.
I've been out of things to say about it. We just spent a long time talking about the mineral silica. This is we are at a new record for like dry wells to tap in skeleton crew history. There is just not very much information about this animal. It's a couple of specimens, maybe a new species to describe. And other than that, like, the main thing that we know about it is what kind of animal it is.
I've got some time to fill. I will now read the alphabetical list of all Star Wars characters, starting with A. And then I'll do that for like 10 minutes, and then we'll have a good hour-long video.
It's an hour and 13 minutes long right now, Alex.
There's a lot that needs to be cut.
There's a lot that has to be cut.
All right, I guess I go first, right? All right.
You do.
How many times have we done this and I don't remember?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Is this 40?
Oh, is it?
This is going to be our 40th episode, yeah, I think.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Whoa!
Oh my god.
Wait. Brachiosaurus is 37. Is this after Brach?
No. Oh, it's 38th.
No, because it's...
Wait.
Oh, we can't count. Whoa!
Whattaburrasaurus is 36.
Yeah, and then Brachiosaurus, and this is
and then this. So it's 38.
Okay, cut all that so they don't know. We're not spoiling. Okay,
right.
I'm starting over.
These episodes will have come out.
We're not going to spoil what you've already watched.
Hey guys, if you don't want spoilers, don't watch last week's episode of Skeleton Crew.
We record these all out of order sometimes. I was confused. God.
Who are we, George Lucas?
Check out next week when we talk about...
Suchomimus.
Check out next week where we talk about Ornithischian. Let's see if that's correct. If that is, keep it in.
Hey guys, remember when China and Pakistan had that brief atomic exchange? Oh, you don't know about that yet.
Okay. Anyways. Starting over. I don't know what episode this is, but it doesn't matter. It's a good animal. It looks nice. Like, I don't know. There's no reason to hate it. It looks great. I like that it has a name that sounds like what it is and the kinds of sounds it probably made. I don't know. I just think it's perfect.
It's almost onomatopoeic, yeah.
Yeah. But and also just like the animal, it's like, yeah, that's a Muttaburrasaurus. I don't know what else it could possibly be. And I agree that like this color pattern with the stripes and the little like, he's got like little gloves. I noticed that on all of the patterns that the hands and the feet were the same color, and I thought that was very funny because in some of them it's very obvious, and it's like it's wearing like those long opera gloves or whatever.
That is fun. I like that.
Anyways, I like it a lot. I have no complaints about it, and I'm a little attached to it because of SVP Brisbane, which was my first SVP. So
that's a good reason.
Yeah, S for SVP. I like it a lot.
Hey,
solid.
I think it's beautiful. I love that. So it's something we amazingly didn't mention in this very, very focused video about Muttaburrasaurus is that this is apparently the only animal in the game with a truly unique rig. This is something I heard from Scott once, but he didn't mention it for an hour and 17 minutes and 24 seconds. So
no, I didn't mention it.
I corrected Scott.
It was because I got clowned for it for like a solid 5 minutes from Alex last time, and I want this to show the blatant favoritism.
I was waiting, and then I pointed it out.
Anyway,
I wasn't going to let it fly. Don't worry.
Okay. Anyway, it apparently has a unique rig. It is cool that it's that kind of high effort. I think it's a beautifully rendered animal. It seems incredibly plausible to what the real thing would have looked like. I see nothing that's an obvious problem with it. The only thing maybe is that I think the forelimbs are a little short, but not really that much. But the forelimbs of the Muttaburrasaurus holotype are fairly long, probably indicating that it spent most of its time on all fours. I love it. I put it in as many parks as I can. I use it a lot. S tier.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to echo a lot of this. That we said in Suchomimus that we really appreciate when it's obvious that a lot of effort got put into an animal. And for some reason, like the thing that stands out to me about Muttaburrasaurus in this game particularly isn't that it has a fully 100% wholly unique model that isn't seen in any other animal. It's that it's the only animal I can think of that between game 1 and game 2 got a re-rig. Like they looked at how it was in JWE1, which was basically just a slightly smaller reskinned Edmontosaurus. I mean, it was on the Edmontosaurus rig. It was quadrupedal and stuff. And then they made a new animation skeleton for it in this game. It had a really big glow up from game to game, which I really appreciate. That, like, for some reason, it seems like somebody at Frontier, like Muttaburrasaurus, is their favorite dinosaur. Because, as we've discussed, there are other dinosaurs in this game that could have done with a glow up between game 1 and game 2 and would have been appreciated. But for some reason, Muttaburrasaurus got that. And I have to say, I love that, because this model is one of my favorite representations of Muttaburrasaurus. I would have said my favorite, but I'm so sorry. The Prehistoric Kingdom ones just got revealed, and they're mind-blowingly gorgeous. But before that, this is probably my favorite, like, representation of this animal, period. And I go out of my way to put it in all of my parks. I just wish that we had a couple more down under dinos to pair with it, so I could have a little Australian ecosystem thing there that wouldn't just be Australopithecus tearing its heart out. Yeah, it'd be worthwhile for Frontier to give us. Let me finish this joke, please.
Oh, sorry.
It'd be motivation for Frontier to give us free update Vegemite feeders for the down under critters. That's a pretty good point. And if I didn't say it before, S tier, obvious S tier.
Vegemite is not S tier. Just to be clear.
Vegemite is like fucking Q tier. It's heinous.
Okay, very strong opinions. I don't really care. What do I
Alex, have you ever had it?
No.
Good. Keep it that way.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. This is a cool guy. I was kind of thinking, I don't know. I have some thoughts. The overwhelming thought is it's very good and I like it a lot. And I like the tail stripiness, and I do like that someone, because I mean the tail stripiness is evocative of the Walking With design, right? Like it's got a stripy tail.
I believe so, yeah.
Checking.
And yeah, like everyone was saying, it's like the creepy bug scientist in Silence of the Lambs says when he's looking at the Death's Head moth. He's like, somebody loved this little guy a lot, and someone involved really loved Muttaburrasaurus, and I'm happy to see that for them. So I'm stuck between an A and an S. I do like that it has its own rig. I think this might have to be an S. It's an ornithopod, which is, and I'm going to reveal a personal bias, is a group I'm not particularly captivated by. I think hadrosaurs are really cool, but like the early stuff, a lot of it, and maybe it's my own ignorance that I don't understand their anatomy as well, so they seem a little less interesting to me. It could be that. But as far as ones in this game go, it's the one I like to make the most. I'm an ornithischian dinosaur integument radical, and I would have liked to see some kind of monofilament integument on this, but I wasn't really expecting that from this game. It's cold. Maybe it's like Eutyrannus, and despite its relatively large size, had some fluff or something. Maybe it didn't. That's not going to affect my score because I'm going to say it's an S.
I have to say that, unfortunately, Alex, we are experiencing a little bit of a Mandela effect thing here, because I also thought that it had stripes on its tail in Walking With Dinosaurs, and it didn't.
No, it doesn't.
It was solid green.
You're thinking of the other one.
Yeah,
you're thinking of the iguanodon. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I am. Okay, yeah, never mind.
It was actually, like, from actually looking at the design, holy the Walking With Dinosaurs Muttaburrasaurus was very boring looking. It was 100% just solid flat green all over the whole body, and then had a bit of a yellow nose.
Damn, okay.
Now,
yeah, I got Mandela affected.
Before we move on,
yes.
I just want to mention that when I was dropping Dalton off at the zoo earlier, when I made arrangements to pick him up for recording, he did say, please don't forget to pick me up, because I fully intend to give Muttaburrasaurus an A, because it's fine, but I don't particularly like it, and I don't put it in my parks.
Oh,
Wow,
this is why
Dalton
Dalton isn't here.
That's
Dalton
why I
is
didn't pick him up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dalton's the most
Negative.
negative. That's rare. Okay.
Anyway,
Villain arc for Dalton coming.
yeah, the radical Daltonists are becoming a splinter group of militants who don't rank Muttaburrasaurus highly.
Hey, remind us in the comments if you think that Dalton or Scott have bad taste.
Yeah, please do.
It makes our day.
And in this case, you would be right about Dalton having bad taste.
You would.
Anyway, I left him at the zoo for that transgression, so his voice is silenced. His voice is silenced anyway, because we have a ranking. This has to be S tier, right?
Indeed.
Yep.
All right. Well, then in that case, let's smack it on the tier list.
And with that, we are going to plop Muttaburrasaurus, if I can find it, right here. Right
Right
in
here.
S tier.
Right now. Right.
Look at that. We're almost on a second level of S
I think
tier.
S tier is getting a little big.
We have a lot of love.
We have a lot of love to give for a lot of these critters. Not you.
Wait,
Especially not you.
why am I being duplicated now?
It's this plot twist.
This happens every time.
We're in a it's a David Lynch film. There's a doppelganger afoot.
Okay, well, anyway.
All right. Well, now that we've put Muttaburrasaurus where he truly belongs,
In the good boy zone.
in the good boy zone, it is time to hopefully get a new one as we spin that
wheel. Look at her go round and round. Where she lands, nobody knows.
Wait.
No.
No. So close. That would have been really funny.
All right, this will be a short fucking video.
I can't believe that happened, but also, yes, this is going to be a really short video.
We can talk about
we said
Michael
that about
Crichton a lot.
Muttaburrasaurus, and
I think it's true. I think this will be a short video.
Well, let's put it. Riddle me piss, Batman. Muttaburrasaurus is known from at least like a skeleton. We know it exists.
that's true.
This animal kind of exists.
Sure. Let's wrap it up.
Okay, everybody. So, thank you for watching our video about Muttaburrasaurus. Tune in next week for what we promise will actually be the shortest video in the series we've ever made, because we're going to talk about a dinosaur that doesn't really exist.
It sort of exists.
It sort of exists, but only sort
In
of.
our hearts.
Instead, we're going to do a tier ranking of every Michael Crichton book instead. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a better video. Anyway, just remember, like, comment, subscribe. It helps us. It helps you because it helps us. It's mutualism.
Yay!
Now, in an example of parasitism, which is us getting a benefit and somebody else getting a loss, we have supporters on Patreon. And
being able to talk to us is harms you.
Yeah, this is harmful.
James, you're really good at advertising one of the services that you get for being a very generous patron on our Patreon.
It was funny.
This will take years off your life.
Yeah, it could. But in any case, we have a Patreon, and support on Patreon is really helpful in letting us keep doing this and putting in all of the effort that we need to make sure these videos are the kind of videos you want to watch. Ones that have a lot of effort, research, and editing time. And so we want to thank right now all of our patrons. We're going to start the scrolling list of patron credits right now. We want to thank every single one of our patrons for what they contribute to help this channel grow and continue to operate. But we also need to thank our most generous patrons at our Gorgosaurus tier and higher, who give us an extraordinarily generous level of support and are therefore our favorites. My brain just shut off mid-sentence. And so with no further explanatory dialogue, I'm just going to say the names Benjamin Seepser, nickname 3110, Philip Fico, Andrew Niddle, Dan O'Kyrus, Florida Man, King Zashu, Max Ironpaw, Noah Riccio, original username, Pythonic, Riley Sharrow, and Wheat.
Wheat.
We love Wheat.
We love wheat.
It's a wonderful
and the rest
name
of
to
them
end
too.
on. Yes, and,
really
but of course, thank you to all of our patrons for everything you do. Before you go, reminder, keep your eyes peeled for announcements about our SVP content.
Don't touch that dial.
Do not touch that dial. You are going to want to see these live streams. We might finally play games that you've been asking us to play for a while. For
Which games
instance,
have we been asked to play?
well, we might play some Path of Titans, and I think we could toy with the idea of maybe finally featuring Prehistoric Kingdom.
Yeah, and
That would be a good... And Ark.
no, and it's been how long since our last stream? Like several months?
Couple months, yeah.
All right, so that's probably enough time that I've downloaded 99% of the mods required for the server for Path of Titans. So maybe even I'll participate this time. Maybe.
We'd
or
love
maybe
to
I'll just play more COD.
Let's do a 100% COD stream. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Tune in next week for a little... we could probably do it as a YouTube short, right?
A little guy.
Yeah. Little video about a little guy. Goodbye.